Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Corrupt Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 2004 adventure family film Two Brothers, ou en français, c'est deux frères. Now, Two Brothers runs for an hour and 45 minutes long. It is directed by Jean-Jacques Annaud. It is produced by Jean-Jacques Annaud and Jake Eberts. The script was done by Jean-Jacques Annaud and Alain Godard. The story is also done by Jean-Jacques Annaud. Jean-Jacques Annaud also directed such movies like The Bear, Enemy at the Gates, and 7 Years in Tibet. The score was done by Stephen Warbeck, the cinematography by Jean-Marie Dreyfus, and the editing was done by Noël Bisson. And the stars of the movie are Guy Pearce, Freddie Highmore, Jean-Claude Dreyfus, Moussa Maarkri, Mai Anh, Phillipine Leroy-Beaulieu, and of course the real stars of the movie are the two tiger cubs. Yes, that's right, the stars of the movie are not human beings, but tiger cubs this time, and they go by the names of Kumal and Sangha. What could I say about this movie? Well, Two Brothers is truly an obscure animal. Is truly an obscure animal in the wild. It really is a diamond in the rough, so to speak. For animal lovers out there, this movie is not just designed for the younger age group, but could also garner some thoughts towards the adult demographics as well. Aside from the stars of the movie being two adorable tiger cubs, the human cast are also very provocative in terms of performances, and neither humans nor animals ever once try to upstage one another. Even though he's known for starring in more serious fare like Memento and A Slipping Down Life, British actor Guy Pearce plays the role of a prized hunter, thrill seeker, and a successful treasurer named Aidan McCrory. Set in the French Indochina in the 1920s, French Indochina was a colonialized place which later changed its name to become Cambodia in the 1920s. He becomes an integral part in the Tiger Club's Cubs' lives. However, Pierce understands that he's not playing the lead here. He's kind of has to sort of demote himself into a supporting role, but his status as an A-list performer definitely has no part in this film in this magnitude. This is not an A-list type of movie. I mean, I know I've seen Guy Pearce in movies like Memento, amongst many others, but here Guy Pearce kind of has to take the back seat. I have to take sort of a back seat, yes, because the Tiger Cubs are the actual true stars in there. The first part of the movie definitely centers around the character development of the two cubs, Kumal and Sangha. Kumal is, of course, the more adventurous one, while Sangha is the more stronger minded cub, and we watch as they are sadly separated after humans invade on their domain, as each of them watch as their father was savagely killed. The and eventually one of the cubs eventually gets separated, and then we come to a scene where the other cub and the mother end up getting trapped in the net. The one of the hunters around the area eventually shoot the mother. They think at first she is dead, but the only thing that happens is she ends up with a big hole in her ear, and she is taken to a hiding place. The two cubs eventually get separated. In sheer irony, Kumal was rescued by McCrory, and I believe Kumal eventually gets, well, he rescues, McCrory rescues Kumal. However, his good intentions gets him arrested on account of stealing an archaeological relic that was a sacred statue, which gets him arrested for 5 months, in which Kumal then gets adopted to a gypsy circus. And while Sangha becomes the pet to a kind young boy, the French ambassador's son, Raoul, played by Freddie Highmore, he eventually starts causing sort of mischief as he starts to destroy furniture after chasing the family dog, and he almost killed the dog. Almost. He didn't quite kill the dog, and I don't think he was doing it to be a savage beast. He was only doing it for self-defense. But eventually, the tiger cub is proven too big and too dangerous to have as a pet, so then he ends up being trained to be a badass killer at a circus, thanks to the Emperor's royal zookeeper. Cut to a year later, Kumal and Sangha are reunited in a not-so-friendly way as they become sparring partners in the Emperor's fighting ring. And at first it looks like they were going to try to see if they could destroy one another, just, for our pleasure. Since in this movie, hunters have killed off thousands and thousands of tigers. And, of course they were using these animals as exploitations to see who's the superior one, oblivious to the fact that Kumal and Sangha are actually blood relatives. So here they are, put into the ring for our entertaining pleasures, just to watch an epic battle to the death. Unfortunately, our thrills and chills to watch two hungry, savage beasts try to destroy one another gets shattered once they discovered that they eventually knew each other. They start to realize that, holy shit, you're my brother. Sangha, is that you? And then Sangha would probably look at Kumal and say, what the fuck? Kumal? Is that you? Holy shit, we were almost ready to kill each other just so that these fuckers could be entertained to watch one of us die. Well, we're not going to give them that benefit. It's either us or them. So then they make a narrow escape. Then they start, pillaging the village, scaring off the locals. Some of it was, for survival. But there were some pretty humorous moments, especially when they, jump onto a meat truck and start eating their meat. And there was even one scene where they actually jump into a bathtub and they scare off a woman while she was taking a bath. Don't worry, there was no nudity. She was robed, but she was still frightened. And okay, I know that really wasn't exactly funny, but it did have some humorous moments in scenes like that. They eventually, clever and amusingly, they find an escape, to which McCrory tries to track them down, as they eventually caused chaos and fear in the village. McCrory explains to the boy that even though they have no fear in humankind, they're not particularly inclined to kill. Their primary targets for prey are just, women and children as a whole. Written, directed, and produced by Jean-Jacques Annaud, we visualize a sensitive and nurturing tale in which animal integrity and human needs clash in ways that hardly ever been accomplished before, in rather unfamiliar territory. Sure, the dialogue is quite meager. I mean, duh. Tigers don't talk. But this film definitely raises a plethora of topics, including imperialism, nobility, and even ecological issues like the environment, animal rights, deforestation, the declining of species, all while avoiding from being preachy about it. And these important scenes are the reason that this movie truly stands above the rest. The movie isn't really too rich in dialogue, but then again, that's understanding since there's no like animal voiceover. This is not an animated movie. I mean, from what I've heard, they actually used about 30 tigers in this movie. Some of them were cubs, some of them were adults. Some of them came from the zoos in Thailand. Some of them were actually even from the wild. Got to be, filmed in this movie. And I think it does raise a lot of questions based on the facets of awareness that, the tiger population from the 1920s and as we speak have been on a massive decline. Back in the 1800s, there used to be almost 500,000 species of tigers. If we're lucky, we probably have about maybe 5,000 more left. And many species of tigers, even as far back as the 70s and the 80s, like the Caspian tiger, and amongst a few other species of tigers, as of recent date in the 20th and maybe even going into the 21st century, several species of tiger had sadly faced extinction. It's sad, really, when you think about it. So this movie does raise a lot of awareness. And I'm not trying to be a hippie. I don't work for Greenpeace. But yes, I'm not a vegetarian either. Or a vegan. I do eat meat. So if any veggies and vegans are watching, arrest me. I do eat meat. But at the same time, I am concerned about animal rights. And, I'm a cat person. And when I hear news about tigers being killed just, for human empowerment, well, I think, well, I can only say to these guys, fuck you. Okay? The tiger population is dying out. At one time, they were omnipresent. Now, they're on the brink of extinction. And if we don't react soon, it'll be too late. So this movie does raise that kind of awareness. And Jean-Jacques Annaud really truly demonstrates it. I'm sorry that I swore. But, this is just kind of to get my message out. If you want to shoot a tiger, get a camera. Take a picture. Maybe you can make it into a poster and frame it to a wall. You don't have to kill to gain. You want to make a warm blanket? Go to a knitting factory and make it out of sheep fur, or make it synthetic. Go to a cotton field and get your wool or your fabric. You don't have to get it from an animal. Let them live. Let them persevere. You don't need to kill to feel powerful. And that's really what the killing of animals were about back then, and maybe even more so now than when the setting of this movie took place. And he's important. Okay, another good thing I also liked about this movie is that there was really no prominent antagonist in this movie. The closest we have to the bad guys were the tyrannical circus trainers. But then again, like I said, who says that Barnum and Bailey weren't abusive to their animals? Or Wrinkly brothers. They had a lot of animal acts in circuses. And I'm sure those animals were not cuddled and treated really well, from what I gather. It's a shame, really. And I really hate to bring it up, but it's true. I mean, why exploit animals for the sake of our entertainment? Maybe the animal wasn't inclined to go through a hoop or to balance on one leg. Why, to tame an animal you have to use physical force, like whipping them with a bull or strapping them with a mace? Fuck that. So I'm sorry, but I'll stick with Cirque du Soleil. At least they don't have any animal acts where they're exploited for our viewing pleasure. Thank you very much. Alright, with the other antagonists include, well, close antagonists include the administrator Normandie, played by Jean-Claude Dreyfus, and the sophisticated emperor, played by Owen Nguyen. And even though you don't have any real type of evil intentions, if you really want to know something, I think all the humans in this movie, with maybe the exception of a few kind people, maybe with the exception of the boy, maybe were the antagonists. Ever thought about that? But also, in all due fairness, even the tigers have really no evil intentions at all. Now look, I'm no animal trainer, but the performances by the tigers were easily some of the best I've seen in any film that stars an animal. These felines, they don't just depend on instinct and dumb luck irony in their escape from the human world. They also convey expressions, emotions, and it never feels forced or contrived. Sure, they can't smile or cringe because, hey, they're tigers and, any species of cat, they don't have lips. But you could tell from their eyes and their body language that they can communicate with each other, and they do so very, very effectively. The expressions just comes from their eyes because, can't show expressions from their mouths. I should make a correction on that. If there was any flaw about this movie, was that Annaud tends to nix stock and digital, which really ruins the style of the movie. The digital camera work depicted here not only feels out of place, but it also looks very cheap. They didn't really have to glorify it by making it bright and vibrant, but they could have made it far more believable in terms of the directing style. I'm not saying the direction was bad, it was just the use of digital video really kind of took the gist out of it. There may have been some sacrificial cutbacks of the film, but there's no excuse why the jungle landscapes and the ancient ruins where the twin cubs had to be digitalized. But the failed camera work doesn't hinder the story about a species whose population is dying off. It's an interesting story that's definitely filled with adventure, intellectual integrity, and through it all, it does feel like a kid's film. and the adults can also be intrigued by the story with questions relating to environmental and animal issues. Though it's rated PG, there are quite a lot of tense scenes. Yes, there's death, there's a lot of fire. There could be also some pretty tense violence, but it's not overly violent. And you know, it's harmless. It's a harmless movie, and I think people really are concerned about animal issues, let alone the tigers and other animal issues, then I would highly recommend this movie for you. If I was to give a scale out of 10, I would definitely give this one an 8.5. So I guess this ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to do so. If you want to leave a comment, go right ahead. Just remember, be kind, be courteous, and don't be rude. And I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Correct Writer saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.